Hi, how's it
Hi,
going?
I am well. Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday.
I'm excited if you're just on time, ready. Look
I
at
know
you.
this is my first time doing TikTok live, so I'm trying to
Oh,
make sure I got
no way.
everything together.
I'm excited. And then on top of that, you're the first female guest that I've had. So I'm excited about that. Okay. And then I did not know that you were in the same area.
Oh yes, A-Town. Yes, ma'am. Decatur where it's greater, born and
Yes,
raised.
exactly. I was like, yeah, what better day to wear my sweatshirt than today? And then we actually are in the same field. So I was like, this
Yes,
is going to be a powerhouse conversation. So excited to have you on today. So,
lots of
I'm gonna,
similarities.
yes, I'm going to give everyone till like 6:35 to come
Okay,
in.
no worries.
But how was your day?
It's been a good day. I can't complain. We're trying to make it to our break. Got a few days left this week. But it's been a pretty good week. We're celebrating homecoming in my school this week. So lots of events, lots of different activities going on. It's like Spirit Week. So it's been fun.
Oh, that would, I guess, you know what? I feel this is the perfect week to have Spirit Week and have
Yeah.
homecoming because it's like you can, what do teachers do before the break anyway?
I'm hanging on by a thread.
Yeah, it's like, let's find some things to do. And it can get a little chaotic right before the break. So, I
Yeah.
think this will be the perfect week to do all of that.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So, what day did you guys have today?
So today was actually swapped with like teacher versus students. And so it was really, really funny. A few kids went like above and beyond. They were wearing like bald stocking caps and painting on beards to be certain teachers. And then the teachers had a lot of fun too.
That sounds fun. I love Spirit Week. I absolutely adore Spirit Week. I know when we come back we have like a Christmas, a holiday type Spirit Week. So
Okay. Yeah.
that's gonna be fun. And my school usually typically they do a Spirit Week for pretty much everything.
Okay.
So it's like we had a Spirit Week for breast cancer. We had Hi Tracy. We had a Spirit week for do you guys do drug free?
Yeah, we did. So I am a middle school educator, so we had Red Ribbon Week, but we didn't go as hard as I feel like some of the elementary students did. But yeah, we did do have like some activities for that week as well.
Awesome. We did that. And I think we had to wear, this was just for a day. We did lupus awareness too.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
so y'all have really been bringing awareness to all the things.
Hi. Um, so do you guys, since you're in Georgia, do you guys do Beacon?
So we use like DRC a little bit, but we don't have like we do milestones, GMAS. And so we have access to the like online Georgia experience, but we haven't used Beacon as a school.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've actually did one diagnostic. So
Okay. So is
yeah.
that what y'all use as your like diagnostics throughout the year?
My school is a really big iReady school.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay.
So we kind of use iReady throughout the school year, but then we use Beacon to kind of give them those quarterly assessments, just to
Okay.
kind of pace where they are for a projection for the Georgia milestone.
Okay. So for us, we use MAP. We do it 3 times a year in the fall, winter, and spring. But then we also have benchmarks quarterly. But those are actually created internally. And so we don't have like a formalized platform necessarily.
So we have benchmarks too, and then we have CFAs.
Okay.
And then, we're not a big map school, but the school that I came from was big on map.
Okay.
I think some schools are doing away with map and then using the Beacon because
Okay.
Beacon is free.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay.
All right, so it is 6:35. All Hi, everyone. I am so excited. Tonight is Tuesday. It's Tuesday night, and this is Teach and Thrive Tuesday. I have with me Jessica Chatman, and I am Educator Hobbs. I'm going to let Jessica introduce herself in a second, but first I want to introduce myself as the host. I am Educator Hobbs. I have 18 years of experience in education. All of it has been, it's been a journey. It's been a journey. I have published 3 books. I'm excited about that. That's a new adventure that I am stepping into. I am an instructional coach right now. And I really love my job and I love the field that I am in. Education, education, education. All right. So Jessica, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So my name is Jessica Chatman. I'm actually a first year instructional literacy coach. And so I have 8 years of experience as a middle school teacher. I've taught English most of those years, but I did spend a few years teaching history as well. Born and raised in Decatur. I'm learning so much within this first year of coaching. It's truly been a really awesome opportunity. And so I'm kind of in this transition of coming from the classroom and kind of expanding beyond. And so, yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Awesome. So I guess one question I'm going to ask, because it just kind of, it's on my brain to ask. What is one thing that you noticed about coming out of the classroom? Now that you're out of the classroom, what's one thing that you would say, I really didn't notice. I mean, I really didn't expect this, but this is something.
That's a good question. So, in a way, I knew this, but knowing something and experiencing it is a little different. So I would just say, like, how much I've missed kind of having my own classroom. And I don't know that I always hear people say that. But that has been something that's a little bit shocking because, I was very excited for the opportunity to step into a leadership role and it aligns really well with my long-term career goals. But I do miss that. I miss getting to work day in and day out with students. And so even though I love what I do and I'm adjusting to the transition, that's something that's kind of been like, I wasn't fully expecting that.
Exactly. I feel you so much on that. And I guess for me, I feel that more so when I am in a classroom where the structure is not as I don't know, I don't want to say strict, but it's not as clean as I would like for it to be. So it's like I'm fighting the urge to like.
No, that's real. Like you're a visitor in every classroom that you step into now, And so you kind of have to exist as a visitor, which is something I'm not accustomed to in my room.
Exactly. And then it's like, you have your routines and your expectations, and then you go into classrooms and you're like, I can offer advice, but I don't want to overstep my boundaries.
Correct.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to dive.
I hope so.
All right. So what is the moment or experience that completely changed how you see literacy instruction?
Honestly, being a first year coach with brand new ELA standards in my state, I feel like that in itself has kind of changed my concept of literacy instruction. I think it's put words to a lot of things that I kind of already knew, right? About like teaching standards, not necessarily in isolation, but allowing them to kind of build and grow from one another. But I think for me, the way that the state has chosen to expand their definition of like a text and being able to analyze like videos and images, infographics, podcasts, I think that has really kind of shaken things up when we think about like, what does literacy look like? What does an ELA classroom look like? So that's kind of been a moment that I'm literally living in right now, but has definitely shaken things up.
What do we call it? Multimodal?
Yes. I've said that word more times than I can count this year.
I know. I'm saying every single professional learning I have been to about the new standards, that's the big buzzword. All right. So what part of your background most shaped the educator you became and why?
So I'm actually the daughter of an educator.
Oh gosh, you know what? I usually have music on. That's why I'm like, why is it so quiet?
Bringing your side project to life just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44.
All right, Jessica, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking that one is true. I think it's true.
Okay, so guess what? Background knowledge is one of the strongest predictors of reading comprehension, often stronger than strategy instruction alone.
Yeah.
All right, so next one. Explicit modeling of comprehension strategies like Think Aloud is one of the highest impact practices for improving student understanding of complex texts. Jessica, what are you thinking?
The question says the number one strategy.
It says explicit is one of the highest.
Okay,
impact.
one is true.
Jessica, you're right. It says Think Aloud and explicit modeling consistently rank among the most effective practices for deepening comprehension. All right, let's get back to our questions. If you could describe your teaching style as a weather forecast, what would it be and why?
Okay, so I don't know if you've heard this saying before, but like in the South, when it's raining a little bit, but it's also sunny, they kind of say like the devil is beating his wife.
Oh.
And so that's how I would kind of describe my teaching style. So mostly sunny, but have my moments of like no nonsense, like let's get in here, let's get to the lesson. So every now and again, there's that strike of lightning.
I love it. I love it. I love it. But you know what? That type of learning, that type of teaching style gets things done. Okay. And it helps those students take what you're teaching in class and store it into long-term memory. I love it. All right. What was your teacher name growing up that your family used to call you? Because your mom was a teacher for 30 years.
She was. So I definitely like pretended to be a teacher when I was a little girl, but I don't know that other than just calling me Miss Chatman, that they like gave me a special name. But it was kind of ironic to be like 9 years old and people calling you Miss Chatman, you know, like.
Ooh, honey. You know what? When we first got on this call, I was like tempted to say, "Hey, Miss Chatman." You know, as educators, we typically, it's foreign for us to call each other by our first name.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
All right. So, what fictional teacher do you relate to the most?
So I say this all the time. Janine from Abbott Elementary, like the writers definitely stole my storyline. So I'm gonna say Janine 100%.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I love it. All right, so we're gonna move into our next segment, which is gonna be talking about literacy coaching through a real lens. Okay. All right, so when you enter a classroom for the first time, what is the single most telling indicator of instructional health?
Okay, so my principal has a saying that the one who does the talking does the learning. And so for me, I'm going to say, like, if I had to pick one thing, it's going to be like student voice, student agency, students being able to have discourse and discussion about what they're learning. When I hear and see that, I feel like, okay, this is a healthy classroom, a sign of a healthy classroom.
I love that. And you are, I guess, how often, what is the percentage that you often see that in your school? Because I'm embarrassed to say what my percentage.
So while I always think there's room for improvement and growth in any setting, I do think that that's something that a lot of teachers at my school have a really good handle on. Is creating opportunities for students to work collaboratively with their peers, to have discussions with their teachers, to present in front of their classmates, to do projects that require communication. So again, there's always room to grow. It's not that every classroom is exactly the same, but I do think that we make a lot of good strides.
I love that. Just so important. What is the most surprising literacy misconception teachers have? Something that genuinely shocks you?
So I would say, as a middle school educator, I know there's a lot of conversations with early literacy about like the science of reading. And I think that a big misconception is that that kind of goes away after elementary school. And so it's like,
you touched on something there.
yeah. We still experience struggling readers in middle school. We still, have to build some of those foundational skills, even in the higher grades.
Exactly. I've been an instructional coach in high school, and I've ran into seniors who could not read.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's very important. I love that. Describe a literacy breakthrough moment you witnessed that changed a student's trajectory.
So when I was at my previous school, reading and literacy was a really large focus. We kind of, as a whole school, had some gaps, and we had some goals to fill those gaps. And so there was a group of students that I was working with. We kind of took an assessment in the beginning of the year to assess like what's our current reading level, and had some really tough but honest conversations about where we were. And we did some very targeted, individualized instruction, some of that early literacy that I was just sharing about. And we were able to see like growth over time. And so although that wasn't like a single student, I think that was a moment for me where I kind of could see a student feel success, even in a grade as high as like 7th or 8th grade, of like, this is where I started. And I didn't necessarily love the process and getting a bit further, but being able to have that reward by the end.
I love that. I can't tell you, like with my 18 years of experience, like how intentionality helps so much. It improves the student and how it has an impact on student success. Like you're dead on with that one. Let's see. Ooh, okay. What is a one coaching strategy you use that most people would never guess works?
Okay, so this is a strategy that I actually tried last week. And I'll be honest and say I might have been the most people that was thinking that this may not be an effective strategy. But what we've been doing is taking the assessment questions ourselves before providing them to students and before providing instruction. And initially I'm like, we're all college graduates, like we know how to answer a 6th grade exit ticket. And that's not to say that people have been getting it wrong, but I think just being intentional about putting our student hat on. What would students think when they see this question? What misconceptions might they have? What do we have to be sure that we teach in order to prepare them to be able to answer a question like this or a similar style question? And so that's the strategy that I want to continue to use throughout this year. And even as we're building lessons, being able to kind of do that backwards design, which we've talked about before, but just answering it ourselves and really thinking through what would our students experience when they see this question.
I love that. We do that same. Actually do that with our entire unit before we dive into a unit. We break down the standards and we kind of look at the vocabulary and the misconceptions and what our students might need to know within that standard before we actually dive into the skills that are embedded within the standards. I love that. Now, especially with taking those unit assessments, it's like, go ahead and take your shot at this assessment.
Humbling. It can be a humbling experience, baby.
Exactly. All right, so let's see. If you could design a reading instruction for middle school in one bold move, what would it be?
Okay, so this would be a really bold move, but if I was in full control and there were no limitations, I would want there to be choice reading embedded into the curriculum. So we have a novel-based curriculum, and I love being able to teach standards through a text. I think that's a really strong way to teach it. But everybody doesn't always buy into the topic or the genre, and sometimes kids check out because it's like, well, I'm not interested in this book. And so I think it'd be really cool if even if it was like clusters or like little literature circles, but if everybody could be reading a text that really like spoke to them and that they identified with, especially as they get older and sometimes that love of reading kind of disappears. I think that'd be a really cool way to do instruction.
I love that idea because it's not so much as the learning is tied to the actual reading, but the skills are supposed to be in the students are supposed to be practicing the skill within the actual text. I love that. You better do something with that.
I know. That's like a good idea.
That is an excellent idea. All right, so let's see. What's a coaching win you're most proud of that had nothing to do with data?
Okay, so I've been in my school. This is my second year at my school. And last year I was teaching 8th grade ELA. And so this year I'm in the coaching position. And because I'm so familiar with the 8th grade curriculum, because I literally just taught it, I've really appreciated being able to go into that classroom and like pretty much just jump right in. Which has been helpful, right? Because the teacher who's in that space now is also new to the school. And so I just feel like it's been a coaching win because we're both relatively new. I just taught that exact content, those exact books, and I'm able to kind of like share my perspective as a teacher last year, but also as a coach this year. And it's given me a lot of confidence. And so that's been a big coaching win for me.
I love it. One of the biggest things that I take from my position is to never ever forget what it's like to be in the classroom. So when I'm in those admin meetings, I'm speaking for teachers. I'm saying, that's a bit much for you to add onto their workload. What else could I do as your instructional coach to kind of lighten the load?
Yes.
All right. So let's see. What part of the new standards will require the biggest shift in instructional planning?
So we're gonna say our favorite little buzzword, the multimodal text. And I think not necessarily for every teacher, right? But I think about the veteran teacher, for example, who's been doing in the game for a while. They might not be as familiar with integrating some of these multimodal texts in their classrooms. I had a really good conversation with a teacher last week because it's like, okay, we're introducing kids like listening to things and being able to answer questions after they've listened. But we haven't really taught the skill of like, how do you listen and analyze? Like, we know when we're reading papers on the text, we're annotating, we're highlighting, like we've got all these strategies. And it's like, well, we got to teach kids like explicitly, like, what strategies are you going to use when you're listening to something and then have to answer a question about it? Or what strategy will you use if you're watching a video or looking at a picture and then have to answer a question about it? So I think that requires a lot of intentionality in your planning of like, it's not just a shift for us, it's a shift for kids. So how do we set them up for success?
I love that. And how do you incorporate speaking, listening, writing, and reading in one lesson? Okay.
Simultaneously. Exactly.
Oh my gosh. And that's one of my big takeaways from the new standards. It's like, okay, we need to do this cycle and you're going to have to do all of this at the same time. But I mean, I've been telling myself that if we talk to teachers and tell them, hey, this is something that we're already doing, we're just going to be a little bit more intentional about that process.
Yeah.
All right. So what skill inside the new standards is most urgent for students to master this year?
So I think that answer kind of depends on the grade, right? But with me being a middle school coach, The peer revision task for 6th and 7th grade is a big one.
I feel like we have the same struggles. Okay.
Yes. Like when I first saw that, I was like, okay, cool. Like they're going to edit a text or a paper. Like that's something that we do when we write essays. We might trade papers and have a rubric. And I'm like, oh no, but it's not quite like that. And so being able to read a section of text and consider, well, where would sentence 4 have been better placed in this essay? Like that's a new set of skills that I can't say with confidence we've been explicitly teaching kids. And so I think that that's going to be a real big area of growth for us, at least.
I know when we took the DRC Beacon, maybe at the beginning of November, one of the things that was a takeaway for us was that listening component. And I know that is new, but we're trying to figure out how that's going to be tested and how do we prepare our students for that?
How do we prepare them? Us too. We use Write Score for our writing benchmarks. And I will say that I was pretty impressed with how aligned it was. Like they actually had something for the kids to listen to while they were taking it. And it really does seem to model what they'll see on the state assessment, which I'm excited about. But it's new, right? Giving kids, every pair of kids got to have a headphone for the test. Like it's brand new.
Dre said ELA teachers are very detail oriented. Yes, we are.
We are. Can't deny that.
Yes, every single one of our students have headphones. And then I love the Write Score.
Yeah.
When I tell you that is a phenomenal program because it really prepares students for what they're going to see in the spring. Love that program. And then
they have a lot of great teacher resources too, embedded in their platform.
Anchor parts and all.
Yes.
And then on top of that, they give you the practice worksheet for your students, and the reading material or the passage are pretty engaging. Yeah. And a lot of those resources provide, some of the texts aren't that engaging,
Yeah. Keeping it real.
Yeah, I love Write Score. And then I love the idea that it grades the assessment and then gives detailed list of things that your students need to work on in order to improve their writing. I love that program. If I could be, Write Score.
Right. Holla at your girl.
That's what I'm saying. Excuse me. All right. So, how should administrators adjust walkthrough expectations based on these new standards? What you thinking?
Okay. So first I'm going to say, showing grace, right? Even though we've had some time to processing versus having to do it are two separate things, right? So like with this being a year of full implementation, I think showing grace is really important. I also think that it is necessary for school leaders to kind of be exposed to the new standards themselves, right? Because if you're conducting a walkthrough, for you to be able to do that with fidelity and know whether what you're seeing is on par or not, you kind of have to know what the standards are expecting educators to do. And so I think that being knowledgeable prior to coming into the classroom for a walkthrough is really key.
I love that. Especially like giving grace and then exposing yourself,
Yeah.
The big idea.
Yeah.
You know exactly what we're talking about. All right. What part of the rollout do you wish the state communicated differently? That's a big question,
That is a big question. So I'll say this. The evidence documents that we got, we finally got all of them. I do wish that they had been rolled out sooner. I think those documents are very helpful. They give an overview of the standard. They give instructional strategies for teachers. They even give examples of discourse that you could have with your students. But we didn't have those. We didn't have all of them, at least, back in August when we launched the school year, or in the summer when we were pre-planning. So I think the timeline has just felt like hard at times to not have all of the resources day one. But as they trickle in, it has been very helpful. I just wish they'd been communicated sooner.
Right. It's like kind of like giving you a 100-piece puzzle and then saying, put this puzzle together. We're not going to give you the picture and we're not going to give you all the pieces. You know?
Literally, that is what it felt like.
Oh my gosh. All right. So we're going to move into practical tools and real-time application.
Okay.
If teachers had to remove one practice from their instruction tomorrow, what should it be and why?
Removing a practice. I'm gonna say lecturing. Which I know, like, you hear lecturing and you just assume like college, but unfortunately, we experience that sometimes in a K through 12 setting as well. I think that students learn by doing, and so if they're just being talked at, that's not what they deserve.
I love that. Student centered for the
Student centered, yes, ma'am.
You learned something new today. Student centered, okay? So, what is the most effective 5-minute literacy strategy you know?
So one thing that I used to do in my early years of teaching was, I don't know if you're familiar with the high five strategy, but it's kind of like activating prior knowledge, questioning, considering the text structure, visualizing, and then summarizing. In full transparency, that might take a little bit longer than 5 minutes, but it's a really quick strategy to be able to kind of break down a text for the purpose of analyzing and answering questions about it later.
I love that. I might introduce that to my teachers tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I give her the tip. Yes. Let's see. What is the one thing? Oh, thank you, Steven. Thank you for the hand heart. All right. What is one thing an instructional coach should do before offering any suggestion to a teacher?
So before offering a suggestion, I feel like it's important to kind of observe and assess the situation, right? Like, you don't want to just be offering a suggestion for a need that you haven't necessarily identified. After you've observed, I think it's important to have a conversation, to ask questions, to seek clarity, and then listen, because you want to make sure that whatever you're offering is something that is a need, and not, that it lands well. And I think it'll land a lot better if you've actually taken the time to observe, ask questions, and listen.
I love that. And then also, build a rapport with your teachers, like, I don't know you, woman. What are you doing in my classroom?
Yeah.
I think people don't talk about that enough, like how it's such a difference from working in the classroom with students to having to offer advice to adults. Like, it's a huge transition,
It is.
Thank you for joining us. All right, so let's see. What's your favorite way to measure literacy growth without testing?
So something that I used to love doing was having like a student portfolio. And so being able to measure how far they've grown, like from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. So looking at maybe their writing, for example, like a writing portfolio, seeing like their first essay as opposed to their last essay. So not necessarily like a sit down test, but I think like seeing the growth in your work from your first day to your last, like you're going to be able to measure some growth through that.
I love that. Student portfolios, I highly recommend. And then since we now are in a digital age, I love those digital portfolios, especially. Do you guys use OneNote or Google Classroom?
We use Google Classroom. Yeah.
Yeah, having those digital portfolios has worked wonders.
Okay.
Let's see. Did I do this one? What is one thing an instructional coach should do? Yeah, I did that one. Okay, so we're going to move into our light and funny break.
Okay.
What's a teaching moment that was embarrassing but actually hilarious now?
Okay, so I had to think about this one because I was like, what has been like if it was embarrassing, it's probably still embarrassing. But I remember the time, so my first school, we had a lot of teacher absences. And as a teacher, you could sub for another teacher. And so there was a time where I was subbing for a math teacher. And I was like working the problems out with the students. I was feeling myself, feeling pretty confident. Checked the answer key, and I got every single one of those questions wrong, like all of them. Taught the babies wrong. And at the time, I was so embarrassed because I'm like, girl, now she thought you knew what you were doing. But it's funny to me now because that was not my ministry, that was not my lane, and so I have learned to stay within my lane.
My principal last year, I did so well with ELA. He was like, okay, I'm going to make you the instructional coach for every single content area. And I was like, okay, I can do this. Until I was humbled inside of a calculus class where I was just like, you know what? Strategies to increase the engagement because I have no idea what else. That was a humbling experience for me. So I totally get it. Like, I'm not a bad person, okay? I'm not a bad person. All right. If literacy coaching were a TV character, who would it be and why?
Okay, so I feel like this is coaching in general, but because I'm a literacy coach, I'll connect it to that. I'm going to say Olivia Pope. A little scandal moment.
Okay,
the white coat, the white hat. I think that, Olivia was like a fixer. And she, not to say that coaches like only fix things, but the reason I would connect it is because I feel like she used her connections to like help those around her. And I feel like that's what we do as coaches. Like we use our knowledge, our seat at the table with leadership. Like we use our connections to be able to help those in our department.
Girl, that was an excellent answer.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh. I think that needs an Academy Award. Good answer. All right. So, which teacher stereotype would you play in a sitcom?
It's going to be Janine again from Avid. That's always the answer. And I wouldn't have to try too hard.
What's the most chaotic thing you've ever seen in a classroom? Because, girl, I know you got some stories.
I do. Okay, so I want to say this was my second year of teaching. And I was planning the school-wide spelling bee. And right before we were about to start, we ended up having a level 3 lockdown at our school. And it was not a drill. It was like an actual situation in the community that caused the school to be on lockdown. And I'm like, but what about the spelling bee? Like, it was very chaotic. It was people, I was even sending my texts to family like, hey, y'all, I don't know what's going on. And so that was certainly a high stress situation. Ooh, everybody was okay. It all ended fine, but very chaotic in the moment.
I can only imagine. I think that's one of the reasons why I didn't want to go into administration,
What do you do in that situation?
Exactly. All right. If you had to name your alter ego as an educator, what would she be called?
I'm going to say sass in a class. And I say that's my alter ego because, generally I'm very bubbly, very smiley. But every now and again, I do have to be a little sassy, be a little spicy.
I love that. Sass in a class. Girl, you better make it a rhyme. Hey, we're entering in our final reflections and our closing for the night. What is a lesson you've learned from a student that changed your coaching forever?
Okay, so this was a lesson I learned actually when I wasn't a coach, but still stands with me. This was during my second year of teaching. I was teaching gifted, and I was teaching through the pandemic, like all the other educators in 2020 and 2021. And I had a student who was at risk of being taken out of the gifted program. They had some outstanding assignments that they were missing, and there was a really, really sharp deadline that they had to get it in by. And I called the parent, like his mom. I remember like talking to them and just saying, hey, like, I'm going to wait until 11:59. Like, if he can get it in, then I'll submit the necessary paperwork and documentation. And he did, very much to my surprise, but he did. And I feel like what I learned from that was to never count a student out. Like, don't give up on kids. Continue to believe that they can improve and learn and try again.
Exactly. Especially put a little bit of fire there.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
You call the All right. So, what is the legacy you hope to leave in literacy and curriculum work?
So, I think a legacy that I would like to leave is that I'm not afraid to roll my sleeves up and get into the trenches. I know that teaching is one of the hardest jobs that exists. And I don't want to be the type of coach who's just talking at people, but unwilling to like do the work with you alongside you. And I hope that over time, as I add more years to my belt in coaching, that that's a legacy that can exist beyond me.
I love that. Love that, Jessica. All right, what's one thing you want teachers listening to release and one thing you want them to hold on to?
So as a recovering perfectionist, I would say one thing that I would like for teachers to release is the unattainable goal of being perfect. Like, you can have all the passion, all the knowledge, but you still won't be perfect. So release that desire. And I think what you can hold on to in turn is being a lifelong learner. Like, regardless of how many years you do this, regardless of how many subjects you've taught, there are always new things that you can learn. So never be too knowledgeable or so knowledgeable that you can't learn something new.
I love that. And for me to hold on to, honey, always remember your why.
That's a big one.
Always go back to your why, because there's going to be some difficult days, okay?
Yeah.
Great. And then last but not least, Jessica, how can people reach you or tap into your work in a meaningful way?
So I would encourage people to check out my website, which is preparetogetschool.com. On my website, you'll find some resources. I have a blog where I've been sharing about my first year of coaching. And it also has my other social media platforms. So I'm on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. And I have loved being able to connect with educators through this platform. And so I would definitely love to hear from you and connect with educators.
I love it, Jessica. Look at you. So much. Thank you, Kev. I see you. So guys, those of you who are still here, definitely give Jessica a follow. She's an amazing educator, very knowledgeable. Yeah. I am so excited to have her here. Jessica is actually the first female guest. Give her a few hand claps in the chat. Jessica's the first female guest.
Very exciting.
So excited, yes. And this is actually Jessica's first live, guys.
Give Jessica a round. But thank you so much for having me. And like I said, this is what I love about this platform, is getting to connect with other educators. And so I was really happy to come across your page. And I appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit about the work I've been doing.
Yes, Jessica, you're doing phenomenal things. I love it. And since we're so close, maybe we can meet one day, or maybe we can do some professional learning, Do
that'd be awesome.
Do recess?
We do. I've attended. So I'm actually in the coaching connections with Metro RISA right now. And I attended a really, really good PD with Griffin RISA recently on the language standards specifically. So yeah, we should definitely connect.
Yes, I am going to one on data driven professional learning communities.
Okay.
And I think that was in December, and then I'm also doing one in February.
Okay, I'm going to one in December too, but it's on engagement.
So we'll have to see.
Yeah.
Yes, but I love the professional learning that the Reese's provide. I think last year I did the coaching cohort.
Okay, yeah, that's what I'm in now.
Yes, that one had so many good gems within it, embedded in it. I love that program. So you get a certificate, and we were supposed to have a graduation, but I don't think we had a graduation.
Oh, I hope we have ours because they've been bragging about it.
But with all that being said, Jessica, I have enjoyed having you on Teach and Thrive Third Tuesday. Girl.
Look, we're trying to make it to Thanksgiving, okay?
Yes, don't rush it. Teach and Thrive Tuesday. Thank you so much for being here. And guys, everyone who's in the chat, don't forget to follow Jessica.
Yes.
And an incredible night. Thank you so much, guys. Have a good night.
Bye, y'all.